So when we do something that's not in the contract, then we take care of it. Like, for instance, the move, where I've hired movers, and to me, that's part of the overall construction. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been moving it.
Yeah.
Does that need to end up where you're showing it as coming out of the contingency, or we're just going to reconcile it all at the end?
Reconcile it in the end. That there are multiple buckets in the project. So the first one is the CIP is the overall program. So that's where we would be carrying move costs. But for example, the furniture, the playground, all those were separate buckets as part of the CIP, but not part of Berglund's contract.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'll still charge it to construction, and we won't run into a problem down the road when I have something that you don't have.
No, we shouldn't, because I'll have to take a look, but I think we had left enough funds for unintended issues like this. I just need to take a look at the overall number that we updated in Feb, I believe was last time we did. Just take a look to see, because we have saved some monies on the furniture, on the playground, all those we can credit back, and then we didn't do Hollywood. So we have all those monies still there, so.
Yeah, I ordered another $600,000 worth of furniture when you told me we came in under last week.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know that plumbing issue is going to be fairly expensive.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, we're waiting for the numbers still, so.
Well, if we stay shut down, we probably could sell the district office building we bought last year. We have 3 or 4 people in there at a time.
Sure. We had some flooding at Ames today.
Oh.
Yeah.
I heard there was a lot of water at Hollywood the other day.
Yep. Hi, Steve.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Pam. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge you.
You're muted, Pam. Oh, I can read lips. It's okay.
That's a problem though with the mask. I was thinking about that.
Oh, yeah. It's hard.
Real issue.
My hearing's not that great, and I do some of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a feature, though. I really have trouble with higher pitched female voices. The male voices are okay.
My husband says the same thing. It's like, I can't hear you. He can never hear me.
Right.
And he has a hearing loss as well. So.
Here's a rock and roll.
Yep.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Martha.
Hey, Martha.
I'm still in front of Hauser, Pam. I've been here all day.
We're going to watch the sun go down and then go.
Yeah, I know. I needed a way to set the lighting to change, but it's not going to. Sorry.
Notice you changed locations last meeting.
That I did?
Yeah,
I think last meeting I was in my fake office, right?
right. You started there, then you ended up at home.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe I got tired of that. Like you kind of go in and out of the image a little bit when you have the fake background. So, yeah. But I've never been able to fold a load of laundry between closed session and open session before. So, you know.
That's great.
I think you need one of Jim's fake videos. He's
Yeah.
got a fake background video of him talking.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good, Jim. Mhm.
Let's see if I-
I don't know if Pam and Don noticed today at DLT, Jim took over Jason's background, which is Jason's own house. So he looked like he was at Jason's house. So
Yeah, I have two good backgrounds at Jason's house, and one in the living room, one in the kitchen. And so, because when he got up and walked away, I just did a quick screen grab. And then when he came and sat down, I texted him and said, well, if you're going to work in the living room, I'm going to go to the kitchen. And I've changed my background.
You got two gyms.
Fancy palatial, palace or something.
yeah.
Where did I go with? Now I got to find my official office one. Well, Pam's office works the best, but
Yeah.
there it is.
I
Pam,
meant to tell you the shot that you have, though. There's junk in the back. I need to clean up my office. Is there still stuff on the table? Oh, no, that's when it's clean. Okay.
I like the potpourri and like it's just very nice of Jim's office.
Right.
My office is messy and it does have like, February, March trees outside. So I got to get a better picture, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe come over there tomorrow. We'll see. And Steve, you're somewhere different though. You're not by the wood pile or.
No, I'm actually in my living room now. I've been kicked out of the kitchen. Now I'm in the living room.
Uh-huh.
I figure I'm set up for the long haul now.
You think
That's-
so?
Who knows? I don't know.
It's the only way to solve it.
Yeah,
We all get set up permanently, and then we'll
Yeah.
be ready.
exactly.
We got like big monitors moved around. Like we've moved around reconfigured our offices now, and so maybe that means we're done. But
And we're gonna redo the basement a little bit and take over the storeroom for me and Mitch and Bill. And I just said, all I want to do is paint it green, so I have a nice green screen in the background.
yeah,
Are you hearing anything at all, Martha, or no?
nothing. I was saying, like, we meet with our regional superintendents weekly, and I felt like this week for the first time there was kind of a rift. Like some people are like, just let us go remote. Let's just move on. Let's just say that's the plan. It's going to be the easier one to implement. And other people saying, no, we got to wait and we got to make sure we can't possibly do something part groups, smaller groups, real time, in person.
Yeah.
Steve, are you going to be on the Forensic webinar
I am. Yep.
tomorrow?
Great.
Tomorrow at noon. Yep.
Okay, yep, we'll be tuning in.
Okay.
We've become regular followers. They've been really, they've done a great job just keeping people up to date on a lot of key issues. So,
That's good to hear.
yeah.
Hopefully I don't ruin that for them then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an all-star cast now that people have gotten to know really well. So, but I think it's a big deal to be invited guest. So you should feel honored, I think.
Great. Martha, I never told you, I realized after meeting Aris at a couple of meetings. Did he tell you or no?
Yeah, they went to high school together or something.
Yeah, we graduated together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I broke that to him the last Riverside board meeting that we had when we were meeting with the village
Uh-huh.
over at the water tower.
Yeah.
I said, hey, can I talk to you afterwards? And I filled him in. He's like, now that you mentioned it, I guess I could see that. And
Uh-huh.
I said, go back, check your yearbooks.
That's funny.
I'm glad you just said that the webinar was tomorrow. I put, I'm going to talk to Shelley after the webinar, and I
Yeah.
put it on Friday by mistake, so I just changed it to Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't putting all that together either.
That's why I said if she can do it on the weekend, it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
I just won't have a collared shirt on.
Mm.
And Martha, just so you know, some of the examples I'm gonna share tomorrow are going to be actually some information about Blythe Park, but I'm not gonna mention it by name.
Okay.
But we have done a little, try to make a little fit
I got
here
you.
and there to see what would work.
Okay. Interesting.
I'll fill you in later.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Casmira's done a lot of thinking about configurations too for instructional models
Yeah,
that we would all employ, but she's done a lot of pen to paper on that one.
good. And we should have a conversation then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to reach out to you about other stuff too,
Okay,
related to Hollywood. I never know who's quite joining in here yet, so.
All right.
Jeff and Sherry have been added. Now Linda. Joel and David.
Ryan, I like your background. That's the ramp down under Central, or you just took it away?
I was trying to find the pool, but it's
Pete
not really.
sat by the pool, the pool for DLT today. So
Oh, did
That is your former office.
that's wild. Yeah.
And they were, when I was out there on Tuesday, they were filling it with stone.
And what Pete shared, how many trucks of gravel or something? It's
Yeah, quite a few.
They're gonna fill the pool then? Is that what they're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll fill that with stone and then pour a new slab on top of it. So,
We have a user, they're just on as Vibe Larson.
yes, Vivica Larson.
Okay.
She's with Imagination
Okay.
Playground Consultant.
Who are we missing? Dan,
Dan, Joel.
Joel's there.
Oh, there's Joel.
Joel's here.
Yeah.
Wesley.
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 Yeah.
And here's Dan.
Will there be another closed session by chance? I'm just
No.
thinking of setting up
No.
a Zoom.
Only if Linda wants one. So
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And I watched the
Yes, I
recording.
think thankfully,
Sherry
no.
really wanted one. Sherry
Yeah.
wanted another one.
Yeah, there was consideration of a board happy hour afterwards. But, we'll have to see
Wait,
on
that
that.
didn't happen for you? That was at my house. No, I felt like a truck ran over me, but Linda, but that was exhausting.
It was too long last time.
Yeah.
It was too long. Yes, that was a long meeting. It was a marathon. So hopefully we're not in for a marathon now, but we'll knock on my desk
Dan?
here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Wesley.
And that's everybody, right?
Everybody, give me 1 second.
I'm going to disappear for a quick second because I went to go get more water and I spilled what I actually had left in my cup.
Okay, Dan, we're getting ready to start the recording
Yeah, go ahead.
and it's on.
Okay. Let's see. So it is 7:02. We are returned to open session. At this time, is there any public comment or did we receive any emails for public comment?
Martha, you're on mute if you're trying to say something.
Sorry, we did not receive any public comment emails.
Okay. Then at this time, are there any changes to the agenda? All right, if not, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent report.
All right. This is the time when typically you have an opportunity to shake the hands of a whole lot of students who have earned student achievement awards. Actually, tonight it's in both the second and third trimester because the second trimester was also changed because of our pandemic at that point in time. So what we have is we have this all for you virtually. Unfortunately, we don't have real students lining up or showing up. We know we can't do that with physical distancing, but we do have a list of the awards and the award recipients. So that's going to scroll for us now for a couple minutes. Is that going to be on Don's screen?
Yep, 1 second.
Okay.
Don, good stop.
All right, thank you all for tuning into that. Thanks to Angela and the principals for creating that. And we would have had a lot of children in the Hauser LRC had that been live. So unfortunate that we weren't able to get everyone together, but great that some of those programs have continued. And always a thank you to the Board of Education, because you really support all those special programs and services that our children participate in. So thank you. Just also wanted to provide just a brief update on remote learning. We've been talking about that now for really the past couple meetings, and I don't need to dig in deeply unless the board has other questions. I did want to share that we are going to be offering our summer school program virtually this summer. Actually, the State Board of Education made a decision that summer school programs had to be remote, and we were leaning that way anyway as we were looking at all the challenges of physical distancing and doing all the health and safety checks that could have or might have been necessary. So again, thanks to Angela and to Kim Hefner for putting together a program. We already have, about 61 students, I think, registered to participate. And our programs will be in what we call our skills program, which is additional academic support for students identified as who would benefit from that. We also have our enrichment classes. And then this year, we're also looking to have things like some book clubs and math clubs so that they are not necessarily the same intensity of a intervention class, but that they would be a nice opportunity for children, particularly whose parents feel that maybe they weren't as engaged or connected during this period of remote learning. So you have an update for you on that. I know you, many of you had also kind of wanted a bit more of an update on where we are with our technology device collection plan, and Don Tofano and the team have done a nice job. And I know Don is here if you have questions for him. We are collecting all of the devices back for kindergarten, first and second grade. Those students have used iPads, and there's a sense that those iPads need to come back in and be repurposed. The apps that go out on them are fairly different grade level to grade level. Then our third and fourth graders will actually keep their Chromebooks at home over the course of the summer. Our fifth graders will turn them in because they are heading on to Hauser and they'll be issued new devices. And then our eighth graders are turning them in as they come and do final pickup of belongings, et cetera. So we'll be collecting those. And Don has also shared some information about the cleaning process. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Don Tofano specifically about the devices. The other thing that
I have, sorry, I muted myself again. I just wanted to know, when will we tell the families these dates?
We're going to get that sent out tomorrow. We reviewed the schedule today at our leadership team meeting. So we'll get that communication out tomorrow, and the collection will begin the first week of June.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about the technology or about summer school? Then the other thing I just wanted to share with the board and with the community is what we know now is that there is still an unknown about the start of school for the 2021 school year. As we've shared in the past, we know that it will either be remote, where we'd like to do some additional enhancements if we are in an ongoing remote learning mode. It's possible, I think very, very unlikely, that we would be back sort of with the full student body with a lot of health precautions in place. I think the other more likely scenario is what we call kind of a hybrid or a flexible learning model, where what could be determined is that we have children back in smaller groups and address the physical distancing as well as a lot of the health and safety checks. So what I want to assure all of you and the community is that we are looking at all of these scenarios, because what we understand is it will be the governor or the State Board of Ed, or in conjunction with the State Board of Education, that will make that determination. And because it's unclear when that determination will be made, we feel like we need to be ready to kind of, I'll say, pivot in whichever direction. So I have also asked a group of teachers to continue to work with us over the course of the summer, meet about every other week, probably for about an hour. This would be a small leadership group that will help us look at sort of the pros and cons of these different models. And then, when it comes time to perhaps make a significant shift, that we would potentially bring in larger teams of teachers. But I think it's a nice idea. Very nice that we have teachers that are willing to say, sure, I'll come and join you. It'll probably be in Zoom meetings over the course of the summer, but we know that the considerations really vary from kindergarten through eighth grade, and special education and interventions and supports and mental health services, and the considerations in each and all of those areas is really valuable, not just to have our leaders in conversation over the summer, but to have our leaders and our teachers in conversations over the summer. So wanted to share that piece. Then moving on to things that are not related to remote learning. We did have a regroup with the group, Lakota group in Gewalt Hamilton. As the board probably recalls, we kind of had, that was another thing that kind of got stopped short as we went into the school closures. So we had a nice just kind of reconnect, and included April May from Hauser and Pete Gatz and Jim Fitton. And we looked at some of the design options that Lakota and Gewalt have continued to look at. So I've reached out to both Linda Murphy and to Joel Marhul to convene the Facilities Advisory Committee probably in early June to kind of pick that project back up in terms of consideration. So we'll be bringing more information to the board, hopefully over the summer months. So we'll stay tuned for all of that. And I know the board will, but we'll keep the community informed too. And then I know people have continued to sort of wait and listen for any updates from the Hollywood Citizens Association and the lease. The board is in the process of considering some options of a proposed lease changes, lease modifications that the HCA submitted to us. So there's no formal news or update at this point in time, but that is something, again, that we'll be looking at over the course of the summer. I also just wanted to share, this is an annual recognition and update, but thanks to Pam Shaw and the special education team, we continue to get the meets requirements and the highest level of meeting all the necessary requirements under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and certainly indicates that we have programs that are in compliance, but are also really high quality programs for our children with special needs. So that is no small feat. When we say meets requirements, it seems like, well, shouldn't we always meet requirements? But sometimes that's a hard bar to meet. So I am really pleased with the work that our team does in that area, and thanks to Pam. And then construction update, which we've been doing at each of our meetings, and I'm going to turn that over to Ramesh Nair, who's over in one of the other Zoom windows.
Ramesh, you're on mute.
Ramesh, you unmute, and you should be able to share your screen.
There he is.
There he is. Okay. There we go, and there we go. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
And how about
there
now?
It is. It's coming up. Yes.
Okay. Just a couple of move it around here. Okay, so I'll start with the construction updates. So finally, we got a few dry days, and that allowed us to start steel erection at Ames. It's been a start and stop kind of a process, and we are about 1 day short of finishing the basic steel installation, and the masons will come back and begin once again. So it went in pretty quickly when they had the time and the sunny days that they could work on. And the basic outline of the new addition can be clearly seen now. It's a pretty small crew that completes this task. It's pretty interesting to watch if you haven't seen steel being put in place. Just a single crane which they use. Switch over to the video. Is my video playing?
It is.
So as you can see, it's just about 6 people that run the whole steel erection process. And the bar joists go in pretty quickly once they put them up in place at the roof level. That's one of the videos. Then you can see the bar joist being hauled up in place. This was from Saturday last weekend. They decided to use the better weather to work on the Saturday. Then I'll move on to Blythe. So the foundations are complete at the main front entrance, the secure entrance. The next step is to start with the superstructure there. The interior classroom renovation is in progress too, and the new footings being placed out there. More interior demolition. They've saw cut the slab. Now we get to the interesting part. This is the pool, the old admin offices. Once they stripped off the subfloor, the bar joists were exposed. And it's interesting to note that the bar joist actually was resting on the water edge. That's all it was, right across. The pool was in excellent shape, to be honest. I'll get into a little bit more detail of the pool because this is the brick facade being erected for the elevator shaft at Central. They made good progress on that. You can see. So once they removed the wooden joist that you saw in the previous picture, that's the pool out there. It was, as I said, it was dirty, but in still pretty good shape. As you can see, you can see the slope of the existing slab there. A little panoramic view of the entire pool. And interestingly, you can see the mosaic tiles that they had used. I mean, all this was hand done, I don't know, 80 years ago. The close-up of the mosaic. That's the pool which was infilled yesterday. That's crushed gravel that was brought in place. That'll get compacted and they'll pour a concrete slab to finish the installation over there. I'll jump to a video of the pool area too. I met Joel out there too on Saturday, so he had a tour of this pool as well. Okay, and then I'll go back to the main construction itself. So with regards to Blythe, we are on track. There's only one small hiccup, which is the rain screen, which is arriving really late in construction towards the mid to late part of July. In the case of Ames, we are slightly behind right now. I would say we're about 10 days behind, but I think as the weather warms up and we get better days, we should start to catch up. And I think according to the makeup schedule that I discussed with Berglund, it looks like we should be caught up by the end of June with the schedule at Ames. Moving on to Central, we are actually ahead of schedule. We've really made good progress there. We did find a hidden condition a couple of days ago, which was when they were completing the demolition. They noticed a sanitary pipe underground that was blocked. DLA and the engineer Berg was on site and they videoed the pipe, and they finally found that the blockage was far more serious than what was anticipated. The connection between the two pipes, we have two different sizes, the time to correct it is now. So this is a completely unforeseen condition. And we've asked the plumbing company to write up a price proposal to fix this issue. So this is beyond our scope of our project, but if we do it now, the point being that we should be able to save a good 40 to 50%, and would not be an emergency fix when school's in session. It does involve saw cutting the concrete slab, exposing the pipe, replacing the pipe, and then replacing the concrete slab. So this is a side project that will take place, but we're going to draw the money for this from our retention that we have for the project. We are not asking for any additional monies at this time. We intend to work within our budget, even though it's outside the scope. Hollywood, we've just begun construction, demolition. We've just finished, the mobilization took place earlier last week. We just begun demolition activities out there, and I'll bring photographs on that at the next meeting. The next item is the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price. I believe this was included in the board book.
Actually, that's on the agenda, Ramesh. This was just kind of an update on the construction.
Okay, I
we
can
have-
pause on that then. Okay,
All right, thanks.
let me release the screen back. There you go.
All right, then that's it for the superintendent's report. And next would be the consent agenda. Although I guess that's Dan, that's for you to say, right?
Yes, thanks, Martha. All right, yes, as was mentioned, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Can the board secretary read tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, sir. So tonight's consent agenda is various minutes from previous sessions. So we have the April 15th, 2020 minutes of closed session, the April 15th minutes of regular session, the May 6th minutes of the first closed session, the May 6th minutes of the special meeting open session, and May 6th meeting of minutes of the second closed session. The personnel report as presented, the 2020 school year 2020-2021 staff appointments, the non-union salary recommendations for the 2019-2020 year, payables pre-list as of April 30th, 2020, payables pre-list as of May 20th, 2020, the policy 6:50 school wellness, and approval of holiday administrator / district office non-union support staff. And that is it.
Okay. So was there did a board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
Yes, could we remove the item number 4, the non-union salary recommendations for 2020, 2021?
All right. At this time, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda accepting item number 4, I believe it was?
I think that's right.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jim, can you call the roll?
Mr. Marhol,
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead,
Aye.
Ms. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber,
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. So what was the discussion on the item number 4?
So I guess I had the same concerns about the raises for the non-unionized staff that I had for the administrators. Not that the employees are not excellent and dedicated employees, they are. The typical raise in this set of raises is about 3%, which I think in ordinary times is totally reasonable, especially given the quality of our employees. It's just that we are not living in ordinary times. As everyone knows, these are really extraordinary times. We are going through severe economic disruptions. And at this point in time, I think we are very uncertain about how that's going to affect our revenue. And also, I think we're uncertain how it's going to affect our expenditures. Martha mentioned in her report that there may be some changes that we have to, do with next year's school year. And it's conceivable to me that those might require more expenditures. We simply don't know at this point. And so I think a more cautious policy at this point would not be to freeze salaries across the board and not to grant any raises for 1 year. And then we can take stock in a year. So that would be my recommendation for this group of people, as well as it was for the administrators last month.
Anyone have any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, Jeff, I understand where you're coming from, and I mean, we are living definitely in very uncertain times. However, I mean, I couldn't fathom giving not granting these salary increases based on because we've granted salary increases to the other staffs, and I don't think it would be fair to them to do the same thing. So I mean, a lot of things were already put in motion before this, and while some organizations are giving freezing pays, some people are going forward with what they've already committed to. I'd rather we stick with what we committed to, because next year I do think is going to be very, very painful, unfortunately. But and so we'll be looking at a lot, definitely quite possibly a different landscape at that time.
I also agree with Mr. Miller. I especially was not okay with some of those percentages that were far beyond even the 3%. I don't think this is the right time. And I think this needs to be looked at a future date, same as what we had that discussion last time. Some of these percentages were way above, so.
Yeah, but we also point out that because we moved everything, we moved a number of things around, we repositioned things, that the overall effective increase is under 2%.
Only with an assumption of a certain hiring that hasn't happened yet, and that to me is a little bit too much of an unknown. There was an assumption made about a salary decrease, but I'm not sure that's feasible. So.
Well, I don't know, Don, if you want to comment on that, but I mean, it's going to be a significantly junior position. So, I mean, that's not unreasonable.
No, and I have two candidates. We narrowed it down to 2, and we hope to be able to offer someone a position before the end of this week.
Yeah, I guess I'll just throw in. I'm okay with it in general. Just I don't disagree with the other side of it. I think these are because we don't know. I'm not sure we stifle everybody on raises because of the unknown. Whereas next year we kind of anticipate that there probably or likely will be a very different scenario with our finances right now. I think supporting our staff is really the right way to go, and being consistent with the decision we make across the different ones. I think both of us are being consistent in the opinions there. So I'm still okay going forward with it, but I don't disagree with the opinion of freezing salaries at this point.
I think
Linda,
this set of
go ahead, Joel.
I think this set of raises it is consistent with our professional teaching staff and their contracts with approximately 3%, which is similar to what we're talking about for some other staff as well. So this set of raises is consistent with what we've done elsewhere. Now, while it may not be, just appropriate to always go with the flow. I think recognize that this may be the last 2% raise for a while as we figure out the repercussions of the economic conditions that we're looking at in the future. But I don't think this is an unreasonable proposal, and I can support it.
Linda, any thoughts on that?
No, I hold the same position as I did for the last meeting. I hear Jeff's point completely, and I understand it. However, I'm comfortable with the raises as proposed. I don't think they're they're in line with what we've been doing for everybody else. So I'm comfortable with moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I'm not unsympathetic to Jeff's point and arguments. I think it's been stated previously that revenues to date have not seen an impact to this yet, given the past practices that we've had to date. And in the interest of fairness, I think we should move forward with these as presented. I think as has been stated, we anticipate next year may be a different story, but until we're there, I don't see a reason to change course at this point. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the non-union salary recommendations as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Jim, can you call the roll?
Mr. Bersati,
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber,
No.
Mr. Marholt,
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead,
Aye.
Ms. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
No.
Mr. Hunt.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I just want to make one note. I realized the agenda item said recommendations for 2019, 2020. It should say 2020, 2021. So we'll make that reflection clear in the minutes. And I'll just add one other anecdotal comment. I know when you have an opportunity to look at the entire budget, we'll see how all these different employee groups fit together in terms of our budgetary goals and needs, that we have made some other adjustments. There's the departure of one of our administrators that we will freeze that position, and that's Jason Smith in our instructional technology coordinator role. And we certainly look carefully at our retirements, et cetera. So we have some other areas where we're going to be able to offset this. So, but I certainly appreciate where everybody's coming from and realize that this is a challenge as we move into a new school year. So thank you.
All right. Let's see. So the next item on the agenda, the Riverside Education Council, nothing underneath. Do we have anything from that tonight? REC?
No, I don't think so.
Yep. Okay. Next then is board member comments. No one's been to a performance lately? Perhaps not.
No.
Okay. Next then we'll move to committee reports. First is Finance Committee.
Nothing to report other than that there's a small amendment to the fiscal year 2020 budget that Mr. Fitton will talk about later in the meeting.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Next then is the Facilities Committee. Joel?
I think Ramesh and Martha have already covered it. Progress on our improvements is going forward well with relatively minimal disruptions. And we will be meeting as facilities for the Central House campus later in June.
Okay, thanks, Joel. Next then is the Personnel Committee.
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. Then the Educational Committee.
Just that people can check out the remote learning updated survey information. I would still encourage people, there wasn't a ginormous amount of people that, forgive that word, responded to the survey. We maybe had over 100 and some people, but overall they were satisfied for the most part. But I'd still encourage people to write in and let them know if you're having a good time, if you're managing, and or if you have challenges, to let the district know, because we'd love to hear from them. So that's it.
All right, thanks, Sherry.
So I think on, maybe throw this to Angela, I think from last meeting, you said we were going to do like a post-school year follow-up or something, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. So
Yeah.
we will next week send out another survey to parents and staff, and then a survey to students as well, to do end of remote learning take on how things went and where improvements can be made. And again, I'd mentioned last time, and we'll repeat it now, we'll use that information as we're working towards our plans for the upcoming school year as well.
I'll ditto your comment, Sherry. Hopefully we'll get more than 100 and whatever people, seeing as how our district is bigger than 100 families.
It's hard. I don't blame them. We've got daily
Yeah.
check-ins for every subject, and especially if
Yeah.
you have multiple children, you're checking in for each child, and it's a lot. There's a lot of things going on, so I totally
Yeah.
understand that. But yeah, if they have exceptional experience or even a regular experience, I think it's good for them to speak up and
Yeah.
let people know.
Absolutely. Need the feedback.
All right. Let's see. So next item on the agenda is old business. First item is the fiscal 21 budget items
And I
requiring.
think you skipped over policy.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I did. My
Was
apologies.
that intentional?
I don't blame you, Dan, but fortunately, no, I have nothing to update report on.
All right. Thanks, David. Sorry.
Sure.
Okay. Next then is old business. That's the fiscal year 2021 budget items requiring advanced approval. Potential action item. Is there a motion to approve the budget items requiring advanced approval as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No, not for me.
None for me.
No, none for me.
Okay. Jim, can you call the roll?
Mr. Barsadi,
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber,
Aye.
Ms. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead,
Aye.
Mr. Marhol,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. Next item under old business is the Ames School Playground Final Plan. Potential action item.
I think Wesley was going to share a little bit about that. Oh, wait until discussion.
Well, should we move to vote, or did we want to have the discussion first?
I think you have to make the motion first, and then
Yep, okay.
Mhm.
All right, is there a motion to amend the construction manager agreement with Berglund Construction Company, approval by the board on October 16th, 2019, by approving A1A?
Wait.
Yeah.
You skipped ahead.
You skipped
Skipped
ahead.
ahead?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, okay.
Number
Yeah.
two.
Number 2.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I am going on the wrong thing. Okay, sorry about that. So, okay, then is there a motion to approve the Ames Playground action item as part of the Berglund contract?
So move.
Second.
Okay, and I guess we'll have discussion.
All right, so I'll kick this one off. I think as I was thinking back on our last meeting, the way that I approached that, it might have been a little bit confusing. So I thought I'd start off here just to tie this together. So essentially the design in front of you is the exact same design as last week. So I thought I would just kind of explain why we're doing this again. So that design was the design that we came up with Imagination, the vendor that we approved last go around, but the playground committee didn't have an opportunity to really look at that and like kind of vote and put their final sign off on it and make sure that that was the firm and final vision that they had for it and everything. So we went back last week to that committee, and DLA took the feedback pretty clearly from last meeting, pretty quickly actually, and was working with Imagination and came up with 2 additional designs that we reviewed with the committee, all of them below the amount that the original amount, and then the amount, I think 175 or whatever that we approved. And just to look at the spacing and the type of equipment that would fit in there without the zip line, and then with a double track zip line. I think it was very clear once you saw the images of the double track, you had to remove a lot of equipment. It took up even more space. I think, at least for me, it was very apparent like that wasn't really a good option. The primary concern, I guess, that I had was we had a little bit of discussion around having that like car seat looking thing versus the rope disc attachment on there. So the design in front of us today is the exact same thing that we talked about last week, except there's a rope with the disc instead of the car seat on it. And it's the same 100, and Ramesh actually did a really good job with the memo of kind of like walking through the different steps that we took in this process. And so we're at 162,723.80, very specific. That is going in there. And so essentially the committee looked at it. We put a really nice like rope style climbing equipment in place of the zip line. And then, like I said, we did the double track, and everybody kind of agreed that the double track took up too much space. The climbing equipment was nice, but looking back at the feedback of the parents, the staff, and the kids, most importantly, the zip line, thinking back to that tree word cloud that we had, was like the most said word, I guess. It made it the biggest word that stood out, that got repeated the most during those feedback sessions. So that's why this is back on the agenda today. We wanted to go through and just make sure that if we're going to spend this amount of money, that this is actually what we wanted. And the playground committee voted, I think it was 10-2 on this option over the other 2 options. And then we also had a color scheme vote that won out, not quite as broadly. I think it was like 7-5 maybe, on putting the equipment in with the school colors, which is kind of like a blue spectrum type thing versus like a natural, or I don't remember what the other option was. There was some orange in there or something like that. So that's why this is back on the agenda today for final, but also why it doesn't really look a whole lot different. But we do have the buy-in of the 12 folks that are Ames specific staff and parents. The Hollywood folks didn't join on this one, though. When we hopefully get around to the Hollywood one, we'll have the same conversation or a similar conversation coming up. But that was kind of the difference between a couple weeks ago and today. So from there, I'll kick it over to, I think, Ryan. Are you going to take it from here and kind of explain what we're looking at?
I am, but I'm going to do that by introducing Vivica Larson,
okay,
with Imagination. Vivica worked with DLA throughout the process, even before they were awarded the project, and has been great in helping us understand what our options were, and coming up with different schemes for the committee. So she's going to walk us through option 1, which was, as Wesley mentioned, the overwhelming vote by the committee, and kind of explain the different pieces of equipment and the play value that each of those bring. So I'll turn it over to V.
Okay, I don't have the playground on my screen. I don't know if you guys do.
I can share my screen if you like.
Everybody should have the ability to share their screen.
Yep, let me just. Everyone see my screen?
Yep, I sure can.
I can now get to the correct option.
Yeah.
Bear with me for one moment.
Yeah.
There's the other one we didn't choose.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, so the structure, the Well, we'll start over in the right-hand corner. Yep. So that's the main structure for the 5 to 12-year-olds. So rather than choose one large composite structure, we chose to really use a lot of different varied experiences so that kids of different abilities and temperaments have room to spread out around the playground. We think that's a richer play experience. So this structure is a tower. It has a slide at a 9-foot deck. It has 2 routes to access the upper deck. There's one accessible, pretty easy graduated climb. And then there's an alternate little tower that kind of juts out from the structure that has a really interesting kind of belt climber inside. That's a challenging and adventurous climb to the top. There's a traditional slide. There are a lot of different play panels inside, and on top there are some kinetic little like sun catchers, brightly colored sun catchers that kind of wave in the wind and cast colorful shadows on the rest of the equipment and on the ground. So it's kind of a conversation starter about kinetic energy and wind energy, and just really attractive and interesting. That the structure is linked to a sphere web climber, and so we're still getting the rope climbing experience in there that can accommodate a lot of different kids. Climbing in nets is challenging and engaging to kids, and actually helps develop math skills. So going from that over to, let's go to the play cubes, Ryan. So this is a play cube. It's a sculptural climber. It's really versatile. Kids can climb in, through, up, above, inside. It can kind of be like a little hideout feeling, although the holes in it are large enough for easy supervision by caretakers. So even though kids feel like they're in a cozy, enclosed place, it's really easy to supervise them inside. It's very cool looking too, just really sculptural, wonderful open-ended play. Then we go down to the zip line, which, as Ryan was saying, was the overwhelming desire of the kids, and it really doesn't need any explanation. It's that, the thrill of motion, the quick ride, the disc seat, kids can stand on it or sit on it. So it's pretty versatile in that way too. Then over from the zip line, we did manage to get in a couple of traditional swings. It's a really tight space, and swings take up a lot of space, but at least we have room for a couple of them there. And then right in front of the swings, we have the accessible whirl, which is a merry-go-round that a child in a wheelchair can wheel onto. It can actually accommodate 2 wheelchairs or 1 wheelchair and other children. So we kind of feel like with the swings and the zip line and this accessible whirl, we are trying to address the need and the desire for motion. So it's a great piece. Over to the left of that, we have something called the Chattery. It's a little playhouse. It's a wonderful setting for imaginative play for the younger kids. So this is the area now for the younger kids. There's a lot of really cute graphics on the Chattery Playhouse, as well as 2 wide counters that can either be used as benches or counters. A great place for to bring other loose fill materials out. Kids will pretend it's a kitchen or a workshop. The spacing in the Chattery is also wide enough that a wheelchair could wheel inside. So it's another great accessible activity. Without what I think is really nice about this playground, we're providing a lot of accessible activities that aren't singled out so that only children with special needs feel like it's inviting to them. And speaking of special needs, we've really provided a lot of different experiences for varied special needs. We know we're not just talking about kids in wheelchairs. So like kids on the autism spectrum, we have some challenging equipment like the rope that requires concentration and is physically very challenging. there in the middle, Ryan, let's go to the dune tracks. This is a balancing event. So unlike just a balance beam, it's a wavy surface and there are handrails. So it's a great way for kids to practice their balance, and they can be a little more daring and not use the handrails, or they are there for children who maybe need some extra support with walking, but it's a good activity for training balance. Then over in the corner, we have a structure for 2 to 5 year olds. So this is more of a traditional climbing structure with age appropriate challenges. There's a straight slide and a curved slide. The slides are at a 3-foot deck and a 4-foot deck, and there's a little rock climb activity. There's a cute fabric shade over the whole structure that makes it attractive and just kind of gives it a little sense of space. And then there are a couple of activity panels on it as well. Then if you move over to the right, this is a Cloud 9 swing. It's a basket swing. And this, once again, without room for a lot of traditional swings, the basket swing is really preferred by kids. You'll be amazed at how many kids will get on there. So again, that motion activity, the swinging, it's a great social activity. And it's also another good ADA compliant swing that's good for kids with special needs. It can be helped to transfer onto it and swing with their friends and provide that soothing motion of swinging. I think that's everything. Are there any questions or comments?
So that's the music that Ryan's pointing there too, if you want to hit on that real quick.
Oh, yep. Over there to the left, we have the area of the musical instruments. We have a chime panel, a little musical, chime panel that is like the 7-note scale with 2 rubber mallets on it. It's actually, every note is brightly colored, so it's really cute as well as being a fun activity. We have some conga drums. The drums are different sizes and colors and all make different sounds. And then we have a little cabasa that is like a rhythmic, it's a wheel that you spin, and there are like metallic beads inside that you can move it back and forth. And so it's kind of a rhythmic instrument. And this is a great place as well. All of those are mounted at an appropriate height and angle that they're all accessible to a child in a wheelchair.
Yeah, so this design really hit on literally everything that came out of the feedback sessions from the students, the AIM students, the parents, the staff, all that kind of stuff in relatively small physical space that we have. And I think so one of the concerns I had was around the swings, because swinging was a lot of things that I had heard personally from some of those about, I'm waiting in line for the swings to swing with my friends, stuff like that. But what the committee provided was, with all of this other stuff, that's important now because of the equipment they have. But when you get this more variety of equipment, the swings are probably going to be less important to the kids. So that helped me get a little bit more comfortable with only having 2, because currently there's 4, but there really isn't a lot of other equipment. So this is going to be a huge enhancement to the current playground that they have. I think this design, I'm not going to get these numbers right, but this design was like 160 something kids. It also provided the most, however you want to look at it, capacity. It's, just adding up the different pieces of equipment within safety boundaries, it was 160 something. So it did give us the most capacity, but that's just purely in the brown, which represents the mulch. That's not even taking into consideration the asphalt, concrete, whatever, I think it's porous concrete that we're doing there for the basketball court / kickball court / 4 square court / whatever else we want it to be where kids might be at. And then from a monetary perspective, this was the middle bid, but our low bidder did not include the bike racks and the benches. And so we have benches, which you can actually see the little, I don't know if, So there's like 3 of them that kind of on, or 4 of them, sorry, 1 on each side for kids that just don't feel like engaging that day and they just maybe want a little bit of space to themselves or something like that. The other bid didn't include that or the bike racks, which I think, I'm trying to recall, Ramesh, that I think it was like an additional 10 or 15 that you add in, and then this vendor ended up coming down. And so I think our gap now is only like 20 something thousand, which, you know, from a percentage perspective is modest. And then it also, and then the Gaga pit actually isn't even included in here. So there's a lot of space for the kids to actually play and be imaginative and focus and strength and stuff like that. And I really like this addition of the symbols here to kind of indicate what is accessible, which actually really helped with my personal opinion on this too, because I was thinking like, all right, I see why we did an accessible zip line, because a lot of this other structures, you know, climbing or other physical abilities and stuff, but kind of looking at it from this angle, I think we do have a very well balanced, well coordinated, and reasonably cost effective playground here. So this was the opinion of the playground committee as well. So this is the one that we're presenting for vote tonight based on our conversation last week as well. So hopefully that provides a little bit more clarity of at least what I was thinking when I was chatting with all you guys a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I would agree. Just to reiterate what you were saying, Wesley, what I like about this design is the variety of types of activities. And as we really started to dig into it and look at the need for the accessible seat on the zip line, and what other items we had that already were accessible or are accessible, it just made this option stand out all the more. So I think it was a worthwhile process. So.
I think, yeah, I think this definitely looks good, and I appreciate all the work that the committee has done on this, and I think that the final result is quite good. I did have one question about Wesley. You mentioned the sitting areas for the kids that are sort of just want to sit and not play. What's happening with the sort of the area to the north of the or the concrete area? Because we talked a little bit about that area, and I know there was supposed to be grass. And you know, my sort of vision for that, or thinking of that, was, you know, if we could get some trees in there, that over time that could be a good place for the kids to have benches to sit as well, for, you know, more naturalistic setting, that they're not sort of in the thick of things here, you know, and they could sit and read a book or whatever they want to do. I mean, is that something you guys have considered at all since we talked last time? Or
It is part of the design. What unfortunately this doesn't show is you can see part of the basketball courts here. Beyond that is a grass field for kickball, and then the Gaga pit. So there's some grass there. Near the musical instruments, this area here has a bench with the memorial tree and stone, and it's more of a secluded wooded area with a couple of trees there. So there are a couple of spots for respite that aren't necessarily in the thick of play. So we did try to give some consideration to that as well.
Brian, the other thing we've talked about, I know that tree line along the neighbors, we've talked about, you know, ideally we would want to maybe plant some trees or something in that area. That's not really part of the plan officially yet. Yes, that is something that has been discussed, and we had the landscape engineer, our architect, look at that and suggested a hedge of arborvitaes installed at 6 feet, and those can grow to 10 or 15 feet when mature. So it would offer a more park-like setting, a nice screen for the neighbor as well. So that's an option that we're looking at.
I think that's a great idea. I also want to thank the committee for providing so many accessible just pieces of equipment. That's really great, because I'm sure it must be difficult. Sorry, my cat jumped on my lap. She's crazy. It must be difficult to find playgrounds sometimes that actually work for most children. I also would love to see more shade trees for those children that are more introverted. They may not play the same way. You might want to reflect in a more quiet place. So I would totally support that. And the arborvitae, I think, is a great idea. Maybe it'll soak
Yeah.
up some water too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I second what Jeff and Sherry were saying about the trees on the other side. I know that's maybe not part of this phase of the playground, but even if it's something the PTA or somebody wanted to, a project, plant a few trees.
Oh, that's a good suggestion, Linda, actually.
Yeah, I mean, because I know sometimes they want to give back in some way
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
project, so maybe that's an avenue. I don't know what's on that side and if that's even possible, but it's just an idea to throw out there. But I do like the idea of maybe not right now, but as this playground is lived in, to create that, because I do think that's
Yeah.
really nice, and it would help with water, and it just creates a nice change of scenery and something else. So I would support any sort of like investigation into that.
I agree with you too, Sherry. Like, actually, I did not realize how accessible this actually was until all the icons got thrown on here. And that was the first thing I thought of, is like, wow, this actually is a lot more accessible to a variety of students than I initially thought of. So I'm thank you for putting that in there, Ryan, or whoever did that. That visual really helped, I think. So. And I'll expand on this too. Like, we're not talking about Hollywood right now, but that was very much part of the planning. We weren't able to conclude the lease agreement and everything because we don't control that land right now. Hopefully we'll be able to figure out a solution. But what I'm actually hoping is through this process, it makes that conversation a lot easier, because they didn't really have a significantly different design. The space is a lot different, so that there were some constraints with that. But as far as the pieces of equipment and the design, there was a lot of similar conversation with that group as well. So hopefully this is a good preview into what hopes to be a Hollywood playground in the future as well. So hopefully, as we kind of talk about this one, thinking about that one, they're not completely dissimilar. So hopefully that makes that project a little bit easier when we actually get to it.
Right. And I'll interject too. The other thing, and I know it's very preliminary yet, but the Central Hauser campus visioning, has some ideas around how to really take the same number of required parking spaces, consolidate things more, and add some play equipment potentially to the back, what I consider the backside of the Central Hauser campus too. So I think there's an opportunity that's getting started here, but really has an opportunity to impact the other elementary schools as well. And we know that Blythe Park has the access to the park, the park district land and play structures there.
Yep.
It's exciting.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, I just had, this is more of a building management issue, but I just would like to encourage the principals or whoever's managing recess, and managing recess is not easy. I've managed large groups of children before, but I'm hoping they'll give them some flexibility, that they're not forced into one part of the playground or another, that they really do have some freedom to choose what pieces of play work for them. And it's not easy. I don't envy the people watching all the children for every minute of the day, but I'm hoping that, I know our principals care about that, and I'm sure that'll be part of it, but I want to encourage their planning coming forward, that they would consider giving children as many options as they can in a safe way. So
yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm going to defer to DLA on this one, but I think that largest piece of equipment, which is the tower that we first talked about, it was like the official capacity is really high on that. It was like 50 or 60, or maybe I'm over, I don't know. It was a lot of kids that could actually get on that.
Mid-30s. I'll defer to Vivica. She would probably know better than I, but
yeah,
I think it was in the mid-30s, if I remember correctly.
30s, okay.
I was just trying to look it up, but it really is, with that net climber, there's a lot of capacity for a small footprint. You really, from this rendering, you don't get really with the different levels within that tower, how much space there is for a lot of kids.
Yeah. So to your point, Sherry, I think that this does offer a huge amount of variety for kids on any given day, how they're feeling or what they want to do and stuff like that. So it does
right.
seem like
I'm just hoping they have free reign to like the north side and the side, you know what I mean? Not that those pieces of equipment are great, but just that they have those options, that they won't kind of cord them all into the corner of one spot. Just really let them use the playground to its full advantage, to can handle so many children. So
yeah, exactly.
It's a good point, Vivica. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. The capacity is 51.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew it was pretty high because I was like,
Yeah.
really?
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
But on the other side, also looking at early learners, because this one's a little unique because the early learners are moving there with the addition. We've got some pretty good capacity for the current population of children that we're aware of with those two pieces to the far left, and then they can also use the balancer. And so that middle part, I think Ryan, maybe you mentioned, because we have to do mulch instead of the whatever that rubber was we were using.
Rubber,
We couldn't,
yeah.
we couldn't do like a divider line river type thing or whatever like we saw in one of the other proposals. But if you think about a line being kind of in the middle diagonally here, it really kind of goes to the younger to the older, like younger to the left, older to the right. So it really does have some very diverse features to it that really placate to all the different student populations that we have. So I personally think the design looks really good, and I think it was very well thought through by the folks that put it together. So I'm pretty pleased with it. Hopefully you all are too.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Oh, it looks great.
No, it looks really good.
All right, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, Jim, can you call the roll?
Mr. Bersati,
Aye.
Mr. Burhol,
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber,
Aye.
Ms. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. Let's see, the last item under old business is the approval of the amendment for the construction manager agreement with Berglund. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to the construction manager agreement with Berglund Construction Company establishing a guaranteed maximum price for various school construction projects?
So moved.
Second.
Two of each,
Jim,
that's a record.
just pick a name.
Yeah.
Easier virtually than it is in person, isn't it?
I have to put it on slow motion when I watch it later.
All right, is there any discussion? Ramesh, anything further to add on this?
Not really. I mean, after I'd outlined it the last time, the only change really is the playground equipment number has been changed in there. And we still are in line to recover the savings that we had discussed the last time. The only issue that I foresee is issues that are outside our scope, like what we found 2 days ago, the sanitary pipe modification. Now we're going to work within our budget right now, even though it's outside scope. The key to this is we are still looking to finish this project in the middle of August. So we are racing towards that goal.
Ramesh, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sanitary repair is being covered by the contingency, correct?
Yes, we are working through our contingency on that. But strictly speaking, it is totally outside the scope of this project because it's more towards Hauser than Central. But I still feel at this time we should cover it under this budget rather than asking for additional funds. I think we're going to make it work.
And that's a fair statement. I think to note some of the things you said, this guaranteed maximum price is very fair to the district. It allows us to recapture a significant amount of the overtime and subcontractor allowances if they're not needed. So it is to our benefit.
That's correct. And we ran this past Brian Crowley as well, and he was in agreement that the contract was fair.
And I'll just add, anybody that didn't watch last meeting, I think I think there was a great explanation to kind of understand where we are right now without regurgitating it. So thank you for that recap a couple weeks ago.
Welcome.
Okay, any further discussion?
I guess I just have a question, more of a question, and it's not necessarily pertaining to this, but regarding the sanitary line. I know we're taking it out. We're looking at this contingency. I guess what's the I understand why we're doing that. I guess the question is this something that we should maybe include that costs? Should we maybe be including that as a cost that the district that's outside of this project? Because I'm concerned that if we eat up all our contingencies, there might be things that come up that we do need this for.
That's absolutely correct. But at this time, we haven't seen our draws on the contingency go up significantly.
Okay.
So this would be the largest draw, the sanitary pipe replacement. I should have a better idea as to where we are headed towards this process at the next board meeting, because the next 30 days are pretty critical, because the demolition at Hollywood, Blythe, Central will all be complete. Okay. So we'll be out of the ground in those projects as well, and we should be able to reset our numbers and see where we're headed to.
All right. I mean, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't be doing it, because I firmly believe we should be doing it, especially seeing that we've got everything there right now.
Correct.
But I was just wondering about my concern was the contingency. So
absolutely, I'll have a better idea. We don't know the cost yet at this time. Okay. It was just discovered 2 days ago. Oh, okay. So once we get a final number obviously, if it draws down significantly on our retention, Berglund would be within the rights to come and ask us to replenish the contingency. Mm-hmm. But at this time, we're not going that route.
All right.
Okay. Anything else?
I have Matt Hutchinson from Berglund online as well. So if you have any questions to ask of him, you're most welcome.
Any questions from Matt? Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say it's 37 trucks of gravel to fill that pool. I know we were asking about it earlier in the meeting. So.
Wow.
It's a lot of rocks.
Where did you get that earth mover inside of that area? I saw the photo that Ramesh shared. How did you get that in that area? How do you get that in the space there?
They've got they removed a window that's right on the wood side of the building. They've got a conveyor belt that's conveying the stone in through the window.
I mean, there was like an earth mover. There's like a small. I don't know,
the machine that's in there.
Yeah. How'd you get that inside there?
This guy.
Say it again, Ramesh.
You can look at my screen. You can see it.
Yeah, that thing there. How'd you get that inside the building?
That came right in through the double doors. Let's see, it'd be the.
It's on the side out here on the
west end.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
That would have been
actually
a great thing for the kids to see if they were in school, right?
Yeah.
One of those driving down the hallway.
It's actually made by Lego, so.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Anything further?
Nope.
Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Jim, can you call the roll?
Mr. Marhol,
Aye.
Mr. Barsati,
Aye.
Ms. Murphy,
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber,
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have a new business discussion for the amendment for the fiscal year 20 budget.
So, the Illinois State Board requires you to amend your budget when you adjust your spending by significant amounts. And when we put the budget together and approved it last September, we didn't put the dollar amounts in for the capital projects. So that's meets the threshold of significant spending. So what I'd like to do is answer any questions tonight, but come back in June and get this approved, and then When we get our audit, you'll see the spending will line up a little bit better with the budget. Plus, ISB will be a little happier. We won't get that footnote that we didn't amend our budget. Any questions on it? It's a lot of paper, but it's pretty straightforward. We'll do a hearing next month and then vote on it, just like the budget we do in September.
I just had one question about the federal grant funds that were rolled over. What was that for?
I was a little bit of everything. I can get a list, but some of
Oh,
the
it was cumulative for multiple projects then?
right.
Okay.
So Jim, what's the bottom line in terms of the budgeted amount you're putting in there for the construction?
It ties back to Ramesh's CIP from November. It was 19 million two, I think.
Okay.
And I don't think it relates directly to this, but I might take this moment. I've been curious a little bit with everything going on, if there's any specific call outs, as we had this staff discussion earlier and then in prior meetings as well, and some of the changes that have been going on that really nets out at fairly modest increases. I would just be curious with, like not having or not being able, unfortunately, to have like a graduation or the employee recognition event that we do each year and other things. Like, are there, the budget is the budget, but I would just be curious, like how has some of this impact actually netted us savings, so to speak, or like money that we expected to spend that we didn't spend, just as maybe a separate topic or just like a random, maybe part of the superintendent's report or something like that of how some
Or
of this stuff
potential
went out.
increased costs as well for something.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
or
like,
that
right.
too, yeah.
Yeah, we had to talk about that just even with the pandemic committee about, just mask purchases for our custodians and staff is, an extra cost. It's not nearly the significant cost that construction is, but, that would be good to see everything together.
Yeah.
I'll get some bullet points together for next time.
All right. Any further questions for Jim?
No.
All right.
Okay. Has there been any additional public comment?
No additional public comment. We did have, I know Angela wants to just add a piece here about our Student Achievement Awards, right? This might be a good place to do that.
So we found out that there were 2 names that were inadvertently left off. My apologies for that. Happy we found out before the end of the board meeting. So I also want to congratulate Mara McGarry for Young Authors participation and Finley McKinstry for Young Authors participation. Wanted to make sure that those 2 students who were waiting for their names to be shown on the presentation heard their names in the board meeting. So thank you for that time.
Thanks for the follow-up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So the next item for future meeting dates. The June 3rd Committee of the Whole meeting currently is tentative, scheduled for 7 p.m. The June 17th regular business meeting is at 7 p.m. Board will enter into closed session at 6:30 p.m. if necessary, and return to open session at 7. July 1st Committee of the Whole meeting is currently scheduled for 7 p.m. July 15th regular business meeting at 7 p.m. Board will enter into closed session at 6:30. Return to open session at 7 p.m. if necessary. If there is nothing else, then the meeting is adjourned.
Actually, Dan, I'm going to interject. I'm going to turn the board meeting schedule into a question for the board. So the June 3rd Committee of the Whole, and as well as even if people want to think far enough into the future with the July 1 Committee of the Whole, typically we haven't had the July Committee of the Whole. We do typically have our June, but given what's been our virtual meeting situation, things being a little bit different, obviously not having end of the year student awards or anything in June, would people prefer to potentially cancel that one and keep our regular June board meeting? Or do we want to wait and see what's going on?
The June 3 one probably is TBD for the moment.
To be determined or to be canceled? I mean,
Possibly having it, possibly being canceled, not
Okay.
100% sure.
Yeah.
Potentially needing to make that a special board meeting to approve some stuff.
okay.
Right. I mean, I'm more interested in wanting to keep the July one, even though I know we canceled in the past, just given so we can figure out, get an idea of where things are going with the especially for like the education, how we're going to be planning the following year.
Yeah, I agree with that. We won't have a lot of finite answers necessarily, and we might get a better construction update since we'll be finishing through August. Maybe we'll get a bit to hear from about that. I think that July is better timing.
So I think that you all make a good point. Even though we're meeting virtually, there's still a lot going on. So happy to keep the meetings as lined up in the schedule. So we will anticipate that and can always make a modification within.
Yeah, but to Wesley's point though, it is right now, it's TBD. I mean, there are some things that we might need to discuss, but I mean, I'm completely fine with canceling that one.
So, yeah, I guess if it's my recollection of what was spoken of earlier, yeah, that's essentially a TBD, but most likely to be canceled, but pending conversation, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Going once, going twice.
It's only 8:30, guys.
Don't say that. It's something will happen.
Nobody said it this time. That's why we're good.
We're so sorry we missed the names of the two students, but they were tuned in. And according to Don, we had how many people tuned in at the beginning? About 40 people, right? So
about 40 at the beginning, and then during the construction presentation, about 25.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
Very good.
We are viral.
Yeah.
That's a record, yeah.
Still have 10. There's still 10 holding on right now.
All right.
About the Zoom thing, I just, not unrelated to the meeting, Dan, but just the Zoom. Does everyone see the same? Is everyone arranged in the same order? Because I'm curious. Like,
No.
it's just
No.
random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in my order, you're in the top left, Don, and Linda's in the bottom right, or Mesh is in the top right, and Dan's
That's the same as me. Yeah.
I see myself in the 2 slot on the top next to Jim.
Yeah.
Between
I'm
Jim and Ramesh,
right,
that's
but I'm
where I
in
am.
the top left on my screen, so it is interesting.
Yeah.
It's a hard mix. If you ask somebody for a high five, you don't know who's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, if there is nothing else, then the meeting is adjourned.
All right.
All right.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a good week,
Yeah,
guys.
everyone.
Yeah, good night.
Fun.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.